this manner might. I'm not sure what you own, but this here is on the mark. Like a spiral from a 5-star recruit, we throwing darts, really focused. WD-40 couldn't stop the way we grinded. In the trenches, putting that work in, I relate to all my linemen. This is for the men, the boys do not belong here. Tiptoeing to the top, we doing cone drills. The hottest show in the world, you don't even gotta search. Steady putting in work, you see the sweat up on my shirt. They wasn't aware of us at first, we wasn't on their radar. Now every play that we make, they gon' say, oh, similar to a razor blade, we gon' stay sharp. The news ain't official if it's not on the mark.
It's Wednesday. We're going to hit your mark today right here in studio at the Fishbowl Radio Network. Got my guy, Ron Murray, in the building. Coach Jay on the road, Coast to Coast Athletics. Of course, we are proud to be sponsored by Epic Sports Apparel. Every play I compete. Man, it's Wednesday. We up. It's going down, man. We're in the middle of March, man. It's starting to warm up a little bit. We're going to spring forward and get my guy, Ron Murray, in the building. I sure appreciate it. He's a busy guy. His time is definitely appreciated here. Man, tell me, first of all, how you doing, baby? I appreciate you coming through.
No, first off, Coach Jay, Mark, thank you so much for allowing me out. I appreciate y'all. Hey, we go back.
No doubt.
So I'm happy that I'm able to touch down on the mark. You know what I'm saying? Ron Murray, K104 Sports Director, Mr. High School Holler, the biggest. You know, we just touching down. We about to have a good time.
No doubt, man. And listen, we trying to get educated and elevated today right here in the studio, and that's why we wanted to have you on, man. Coach Jay, first of all, how you doing, baby? Tell me what's going on.
Man, I'm good. Blessed to be here. Blessed to be able to do this every week, man. Let's get it.
Let's get it, man. Of course, we always like to start with our guests, kind of give you a little background. Of course, we know Ron very well. We probably rub elbows several times a year and chop it up. We break bread. You know, this is my guy. You know what I'm saying? But for the listeners, tell them how you got into the game, how you got into sports, and what you're doing today.
Okay, my name is Ron Murray. I grew up in Killeen, Texas. I was a military brat. So I came up here for college, went to Paul Quinn College. I studied communications. Growing up, I always wanted to work in sports. I just didn't know what it was. But a little bit in my mind, I kind of knew I wasn't going to be a professional athlete. You know, in high school, believe it or not, I was a center and guard in high school. I handled my business, though.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? But Nick Saban wasn't knocking on my door. So anyway, went to college, went to Paul Quinn, and, radio was my avenue to start working in sports. So with that, Cowboys, Mavericks, big foothold when it comes to high school sports. So I think it's just been a blessing for everything that I've been able to accomplish.
Now, you got it out of the mud in the trenches, and I think you carry that over to what you do on a weekly, daily basis in ingraining yourself in high school sports. So talk about that mentality and pushing forward to you got to grind at this. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that Ron, and we're going to get into that he does behind the scenes that might not everybody will see behind the scenes if you're not in the know.
Right. So along with that, high school sports, I kind of take a different approach because there are some games that we know everybody's going to be at, which is dope. We know the teams, the who's who, the usual suspects, but to me, it's no different than when you're looking for stories.
Right.
Because there are student athletes everywhere, especially in the DFW. And also, I kind of look at it as an opportunity. It's no different from society where there are certain places and segments that feel that they don't have a voice.
Right.
So when we're able to come out, and I give you kudos and Coach Jay with this as well, because we go to some of these games that some people now are just starting to go to.
Right.
And we've had that conversation.
No doubt.
And these are these communities, these kids, these areas that need a voice as well. So I just love that, we're able to be a part of that, and they welcome us with that, because they'll let you know because some people only come around when there's one-star talent. There's one-star guy versus I want to know and see how y'all are doing every year, so you build those relationships and you continue that coverage.
Well, I think, and we're going to get into that in just a little bit. That's the thing that makes you unique about what you do. And I think you stand on business when it comes to just not covering or getting coned into one section. Right. You're all over the place. It's not uncommon to see Ron in West Texas or East Dallas or North Dallas or South Dallas. He might pull up, like he said, he's from Killeen, Central Texas. He goes all over. And I think that's one thing that the standard that you kind of set. But one thing that you do is you're heavy in the community, especially in the DFW area. Now, talk about some of the things that you try to get involved in the community with. You're big on food drives. You have a big drive at the beginning of the year of school supplies that you've been doing for years.
Yeah.
Speak on that just a little bit.
So I think it really starts with my parents, my mom and my dad, both giving people. It was regular going to the Salvation Army, going to Goodwill, and even just not even just having something just even from a communal standpoint. So, being the person who I am and, of course, working at K104, that's always been a heritage community station. I think it's just been beautiful with food drives, food giveaways. So I thought one of the biggest things I wanted to do was give back, especially to the DFW, because I felt that they've been so great to me, and that's my school supply giveaway. So, I'm real grateful to Pinkston High School out in West Dallas. Big shout out to Coach Stovall and the Lady Vikings girl basketball team. Then out in South Arlington at Arlington Seguin, big shout out to Coach Joe Gordon. And those two places just really allow me to really just, bless the community through that. So, year 3 coming up. If anybody wants to donate, let me know. I'm excited.
Definitely. We'll keep you involved with that, and make sure we reach out, and we're definitely gonna try to pull up at those events too. Coach Jay, that's one thing that you've done, for years, has been involved in the community. Giving back is part of what we do. The Flex Zone is coming up here in a few months. I think that's a big thing where you try to give back to the community. A lot of times you bring in groups of kids and sponsor them so that they can come in and get that exposure. Just speak on how important that is and how those things intertwine with each other.
Man, it's huge. It takes a village, and also have given to Ron Murray as well. It takes a village, man, and giving back is something I think is very important for us to do, because each one has to reach one if we're serious about where we're trying to go in life, and especially helping young men and young women reach goals. It's important to show them that no matter how far you grow, how much you grow, reach back and help someone that's less fortunate than you, and it always helps to keep us grounded and always remember what's most important. So that's something that we truly are passionate about and we love to do.
Absolutely. And part of it is just having that relationship with the community, and I think that's a real big part. Shout out to K104, and shout out to you especially. I know that you move and really take a grain of salt with that and try to make sure that you give back to your community. Now, talk about the Beast of the Week. I think that's a unique thing that you kind of started a few years ago, and that's really just caught hold in the DFW area, in the Metroplex. And listen, boys and coaches and players really listen. They're tuned into this to see who's Beast of the Week, and they really go fed and really look for. I've seen Ron get mobbed by coaches and players. Hey man, what's up with the Beast of the Week? You know what I'm saying? I did this, I did that. Yeah, you have to ball to get the call. That's the same thing we like to see. But talk about the Beast of the Week a little bit.
So first off, big shout out to my guy Cat Daddy, the Beast of the Week. That's something it's been going on for a few years right now, and I definitely have to give a big shout and appreciation to Amy Witherite and 1-800 Truck Wreck. They've held us down. They saw the vision, and when they've always been with us through the whole way. And I thought the Beast of the Week was one of those things, like you said. You ball, you gonna get the call. It doesn't matter if you're in DeSoto, doesn't matter if you're in Pinkston, doesn't matter if you're in Benbrook, doesn't matter if you're in Eastern Hills. If you do what you're supposed to do, Ron Murray's gonna send that email. Coach needs to reply to that email.
No doubt.
Hey, coach needs to reply to that email, because sometimes the stats do get a little interesting, so there needs to be some confirmation.
Right.
But I feel that when you look at to show love to these players, and it's not to call anybody out, you can kind of see that some awards may be par for the course, and unless like a certain opportunity happens, you're not going to be able to be the Beast of the Week. But the Beast of the Week is a total communal award, to where you can contact me. Hey, there's this kid going out here doing this. A coach can contact me. myk104.com. That's a website that we have as well. But, I just love the way the Beast of the Week, we're just able to be so many different places in the Metroplex and able to give back. In this past year, this was the second year that, along with, Beast of the Week game ball, we also donated $1,000 to the Offensive and Defensive Player of the Week. Also, big shout out to Dak Prescott. He donated to the Beast of the Week this year. He was definitely a part of our program. And Mr. Nathaniel Prescott as well. He came out, he came out and spoke at the banquet. So we're just trying to make it bigger and better. So I definitely appreciate y'all supporting it.
Absolutely. I think it's big. And now that the kids really are grabbing hold to it, Talk about some of the guys that you've seen here in the last couple of years that really have been beasts and taking it on to the next level.
I don't have all my lists, but
No
it's
doubt.
coming up. Big shout out to Byron Murphy II out
Draft
of
pick.
University of Texas,
No
K104 Beast of the Week. The #1 running back in college football, Ollie Gordon, K104 Beast of the Week. Probably a first-round pick on his way next draft.
Right.
Caden Salter from Cedar Hill. Marvin Mims, Denver Broncos. There are so many, and I love seeing it because when you're a part of someone's journey, you know, you're kind of intertwined in the story. So able to see that, and not just with the kids having success, seeing how that changes the family as well.
Right.
And, you know, speaking of basketball a little bit, Ron Holland, who's right now balling with the NBA G League Ignite, going to be a first-round pick. He was a K104 Beast of the Week. So it's literally a long list of so many players that we've been able to shout out. And not just even a professional standpoint, even the kids that go out to college, get that 4-year degree, and do well by their life, go out and be great husbands, be great wives. So there's just so many people that, you know, we've selected as Beast of the Week that went on to do great things.
Now talk about K104 and, you know, not just in the community, but how you're trying to drive that sports department. I think that's a real big thing. It's real important, you know, especially at the high school level. You know, anybody that pulls up and they see you, they, you know, you're recognizable and you've been doing this for a while. But how important is that, you know, within the station?
I think it's very important within the station. You know, once again, big shout out to Didi in the morning, big shout out to Bebe, big shout out to Cat Daddy. I'm not light when these opportunities come to me. When that mic cracks, you know, it's showtime. And with that, I know that I want to come back and be on the mic. So I make sure whatever my coverage is coverage that I want everybody to be happy with. It's coverage that I know the station is going to be happy with. And definitely I got to give a big salute to the OG Chris Arnold, you know, because I feel we stand on everybody's shoulders. You know, he's definitely a titan with K104 Sports. And also I got to give a big shout out to Roger B. Brown. He was one of the first shows I worked on, and he really gave me an opportunity on Talking Sports with Roger B. Brown. He was recently selected to the Texas Black Sports Hall of Fame, so I'm definitely glad he got his flowers. But I just love the fact that a part of the K104 alumni at this point in time, and also just the fact of how much history, and it's a heritage station, because I could be out and about and there'll be somebody from the 70s, 80s, early 90s. I worked at K104. I worked at K104. So just to be a part of that history and fabric, I'm very proud of that.
Well, I think that, you know, you're a big reason. You know, shout out to Cat Daddy and all the people that you mentioned. They have elevated that as well.
Yes,
you know,
facts.
and your energy and your compassion comes out in everything you do.
I
know
appreciate
what I'm saying?
it.
If you hadn't seen Ron Murray, you hadn't talked to him, you see it when he pulls up. You know what I'm saying? He's always on. You know what I mean? But when it's time to get it done, he's locked in. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, what's up, Mark? Hey, just later, boom, we out. You know what I'm saying? And that's what, you know, I like about Ron. You know what I'm saying? This is my guy, and you know, he could tell you I've leaned on him in the last few years as far as things that we talk about, you know, what I'm doing, you know, this and that. What does he think about this? We broke bread, and, you know, I just appreciate you for sharing that knowledge in the game, because, you know, I've been trying to do these type of things, this type of show, this type of platform for a long time. But Ron's always been instrumental and been elbow to elbow with me on that, and I just want to give you your flowers and thank you for that. But let's switch gears a little bit before we go into this. You know, shout out to everybody that's listening, and of course we want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, Expert Sports Apparel, for sponsoring the On Your Mark show and being you know, critical and you know, having our back for a long time. But talking about DFW, the sports scene, right now I think DFW is at the top of the game when you come to high school sports in the state of Texas. Yes. And there's no sugarcoating it. You know, we looked at, you know, the football landscape. DFW is running it. Basketball here recently, DFW is running on men and women's side. Start with basketball. You know, you crown a few state champions here the last couple of weeks in boys and girls. DFW's running. Hey, listen, I'm from H-Town. You know what I'm saying? And, you know,
so the fact you from Houston is, I know
I'm giving it up. Yeah. Look, I'm trying to, you know, I'm trying to pull myself back a little bit because, you know, deep down, you know, I'm H-Town through. Anybody who knows me knows that. But DFW runs it. You know, start with basketball first.
So basketball, let's look at it from the girls level. You know, Duncanville, 12th state championship. Along with that, Frisco Liberty, they went back-to-back. JC Arby, they have one of the top young ladies basketball programs in the nation. Along with that, Faith Family Academy, they went for a three-peat on the boys level. Then also, let's look at Plano East, 40-0.
Never been done.
They're going to have a Disney movie one day.
Absolutely.
They're going to have a Disney movie one day. And also, oh my gosh, I cannot forget about Lancaster. Third state championship. Big shout out to Coach Douglas and all they've done. The way the Metroplex is set up now, and of course we're talking about basketball, we can go into baseball and track as well.
Track.
So, and then you just look at the way, in a second, the Dallas-Fort Worth area is going to be the biggest metropolitan area in the United States.
Right.
Because if you look at it in, New York City, that's number one. They have to build up. The DFW is constantly building north and west, spreading out.
Right.
So all the way down to Midlothian, all the way to Prosper, all the way out to
North Crowley.
Fort Worth. Then
Right.
then you go east out that way, Crandall and all these other places. So you have people that are literally moving to the DFW out of state so their kids can get an opportunity to compete. And I think you just have to look at all the coaches that are here.
Right.
And especially some of the coaches that are, creating these great trees for other coaches. Like you brought up North Crowley. I got to give a shout out to Coach Lynn. Think about like all the coaches that came from his staff. Coach Reginald Samples. I know we're going back to football. Coach Reginald Samples. All the coaches that have came from his tree right now. And shout out to Coach Jason Todd at South Oak Cliff.
No
He's
doubt.
going to be a coach where you're going to see a lot of coaches come from his staff. So
Right.
I think you look at so many people are moving in, along with the fact you got so much great coaching, and also you have so many great coaches, because now it's to a point of where kids can kind of go where they want to go.
Right.
So it's really up to the coach to create that culture, to create that winning culture, and nothing's stopping the DFW at this point in time.
No doubt. Coach Jay, I know you're a guy that's been all around. You got some roots in Houston, so you see this DFW thing going. Speak on that just a little bit, because you're in the trenches, you're on the sideline each week with this as well. Coach Jay, did we lose you?
Man, I had some bad. Say it again, Mark. I couldn't hear you.
We're just talking about the dominance of DFW sports, starting with basketball here recently. Ron brought up track and field as well. Duncanville, Lancaster, both boys and girls, DeSoto, Cedar Hill. Those guys have had a blueprint or ingrained in high school athletics here in the last, I would say, decade or so, really.
Yeah.
It's been a dominant thing where, DFW has been on the top of high school sports. So talk about that just a little bit.
Also, Mark, being from Houston as well, meaning, I moved to Houston in 91 out of high school from St. Louis. So I consider myself a Houstonian, by years of being there. But when I moved to Dallas 4 years ago, I was like, wow, this is totally different. Like the sports scene is completely, the approach to high school sports is completely different from so many other places around the country. And even, looking back, growing up, competing against, Texas teams, Dallas always stood out. But the way the landscape is now, the cultures are completely set apart to dominate in the DFW area. And I mean, the preparation, it's a beautiful thing to watch. When you can go to any school in Dallas and see a high level of competition. So it's amazing. I still can't really put my finger on, what it is that makes Dallas so completely different. But I know other cities better catch up pretty fast.
Well, I think that they're trying to actually, it used to be where, and it still is, East Texas has a certain stature to whatever they do in sports as well. And West Texas had a whole movie and a book written about them.
Right.
When you come with the Odessa Permian lineage of football, in the late 80s and early 90s. But now it's coming to where, shout out to South Oak Cliff and Coach Todd and those guys. The Mecca is the Mecca. It's right here in Dallas.
That's a fact.
Absolutely.
There's nothing
and Dallas
you
was
can say
in
about
that movie.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
still shows you-
Hey, shout out to Carter.
that
Shout
still
out
shows
to
you the
Carter.
dominance.
Shout out to Carter.
Yeah, I don't like when they say, that there wasn't the first. Those guys won it. We
Yeah.
saw it on the field. We were living at that time. We know what happened. The record books might not reflect it, but those guys handle their business on the field.
Yes.
You
They
know what I'm
won
saying?
Absolutely agree. And Dallas was in that movie. And I think just the consistency, though, of not just football, but sports in general. Of course, you're going to have Southeast Texas. You're going to have, Gallatin. I mean, a lot of great areas. Houston, does a really good job, but just the consistency year in, year out in multiple sports gives Dallas a huge leg up in just being, the best in the state when it comes to, putting out championships. Now, I'm sure we can go and look and say, okay, for sport to sport, who sent the most pros or sent the most kids to college, I'm pretty sure Dallas will be somewhere, at the top.
No doubt. I mean, if you go and look at it, I mean, and that's a conversation that's in barbershops and on fields galore. You know what I mean? Weekly, we have these conversations all the time about the most pros and who's got the best this and that. But there's no arguing with what's on paper. You know what I mean? And all three of us go to state religiously on a yearly basis, and we're starting to see a trend. And the trend is in North Texas, in the Metroplex right now. And you can't argue with it.
And the way that they're talking now about possibly bringing the state basketball tournament to the DFW, they're not going to like that.
Right.
Because Jerry's not letting the state title football game go anywhere.
It's not.
So if, hoops come and then, of the 6 divisions, you got 4 out of the 6, 5 out of 6 that are DFW champions, then whether it be Dickies Arena or the AAC, state may just reside in the DFW period, but I'm for sure the rest of the state, they're going to try to find some way to break that up somehow.
I think if that happens, it'll be a lot of people upset. Go ahead, Coach Jay.
No, speaking of that, Ron, I get asked all the time, especially in the groups, Facebook groups, why they won't have the football state championships in Houston. And I really don't have an answer other than it's Jerry's world.
No doubt.
Can you shed some light on that?
So to me, I think it's the fact of course, it is Jerry's world. And along with that, I think the way the DFW is structured now, there's just so much more to do in the DFW. And I think Arlington is just like the great middle space to where if you're coming from the west, you're coming from the east, you're coming south, and you can be in Arlington. And then with that, if you want to stay in Dallas, you can stay in Dallas for the time being. You want to stay in Fort Worth. And then I think there's just more to do with that. And, the winners are here. And this is just a little bit, not trying to get real conspiracy theory part of it, but when John Stevens Jones and Highland Park were doing their thing, you think state's going to be anywhere else but at Jerry World? So that kind of cemented that. So that's just my thought of it all. But I have no concrete reason why. But I would think there's just more to do in DFW. And at the end of the day, it's still the Star, it's still the Cowboys, and just the branding with the Cowboys. Respectfully, you want to play where the Cowboys are at, or you want to play where the Texans are at? Like that's just where we at.
Well, I think there's some star power to it. Honestly, every year I walk in there. When I first walk in, it's an aha moment. Then I settle on and get my mind.
Yes.
It's nothing like when you walk on the field and you go, and then I get back into what I need to do. But every time I step on the field every year for state, it's that whether it's that first game or the last game, and you look up and you see it, you can only imagine what it's like at a Cowboys game.
Right.
And kids and coaches and players and families and communities get to experience what they see on TV. That's a driving force, and it's a thing where you want to be there every year. I mean, you can't take away from that. You know what I mean? And I think that if basketball does come to the Metroplex as a central hub for the state champions, it'll be great. You know what I mean? I think it'll be great for the teams and players. It's always logistics when it comes to travel.
Correct.
And you have to consider that as well. But, shout out to the Alamo Dome, who does a great job of hosting the basketball championships and, track and field. There's nothing like Texas Relays, which is coming up.
Yes.
Running down at UT, in track, Coach Jay, you can speak to that in that atmosphere. Track and field is here in DFW as well.
No, absolutely. And like you said, there is nothing greater than being in Austin for that amazing track meet. It is absolutely phenomenal. Just seeing, you get to see all the old guys that ran, the old females. They're always there. I mean, UT, the campus is amazing. The track, is fast. and you're going to run a good time if you show up and show out. So, yeah, real estate is everything, man. But Dallas again is a hub for meet of champions, just so many different things. And shout out to A&M. They hosted a really good meet this year. Very impressive. Put up some really fast times for early high school. I was really impressed with the way A&M hosted that meet. So I think they're going to try to give UT a run for their money. Not sure if they can outdo UT meet, but that's a good start.
Listen, I had a chance to go back last week on YouTube and watch some of the footage from that. And I think you're looking at the future of track and field in the United States in that one particular event. There was some serious competition and some serious heat.
Oh, my God. And early, man.
Early.
Crazy. Early.
Right. Early in the track season. Right. No, listen, it was phenomenal on both the boys and the girls' side. I think, that was a preview of the state championships to come. Some of the fastest time in the country.
Absolutely. And shout out to Atascocita, Summer Creek. Man, I thought Duncanville was going to run off with the 4x1, but Atascocita and Summer Creek said, nah, hold on. We got some heat, too.
Katie Tompkins, too.
Katie Tompkins as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting going down the stretch to see how these football boys hold up.
No doubt. No doubt. I think Jelani Watkins sent a message around the country that he's one of those guys.
He's that guy.
He's that
right
guy.
Now.
Yeah.
He's that guy right now.
Right.
And I know Katie Durham is licking his chops to get a rematch.
Oh well,
that's gonna be good.
Knowing CD, he's back in the lab thinking about that. I saw DeCorian this week at Under Armour on Sunday. So they're working. You know what I mean? I think they know what they got to do and they got to clean up. And that's just competition. And what that does is breed competition.
QB?
I mean,
did you see the QB run 10-8?
Yes, I did. Absolutely.
Oh my God!
I mean, listen, the Woodlands had some guys in there. So the speed and athleticism in the state of Texas is second to none.
It's unreal.
It's unreal. And, going around the country, in the spring with 707, I hate to have these arguments and conversations with people from Florida, Georgia, and things like that. And, until you're in it, you don't see it up close and personal. You have no appreciation for it unless you're really right in the trenches with that. And, all three of us have the luxury of seeing these guys and perform at a high level. It's mind-boggling sometimes, and you have to kind of pinch yourself that you're in that moment. You know what I mean?
You're watching history.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And that's how I felt about South Oak Cliff, and we'll get into that in just a minute, talking about going to cover games. But, we touched on it just a little bit, and, we can tap into football, DFW football, especially in the southern sector. It has really, really had an impact on high school football in the state of Texas. Ron, you've been one of those guys that's been at the forefront of covering some of those games. Talk about the southern sector a little bit. I know you have, that has a special place in your heart for those guys.
Most definitely. First off, we got to give a shout out to the Godfather, Coach Reginald Samples. He definitely laid those, foundation in the of course, Coach Freddie James from Carter. So, the history was there. And then, Coach Todd, him taking that mantle. Then, of course, Coach Emmett Jones, who's over at OU now. He was a head coach at South Oak Cliff. So, you saw the bricks being built, and for it to all to come to fruition, I think it's so dope. And just the fact of how South Oak Cliff, they do not apologize for being themselves, for representing Dallas, being from Marsalis, and I think that's just put a whole level of pride all throughout Dallas ISD. Because, of course, you see what Carter's doing. Big shout out to Coach Gilbert. They're trying to work their way back. I think they ran into Stephenville this past year. That's running into a buzzsaw.
Right.
But you can see they're trending upward. Then, of course, what Kimball wants to do. But I think, what South Oak Cliff did, it brought a whole nother level of pride. And along with that, it shows that it can be done in the southern sector. So it is debunking all those stereotypes of I don't want to go where I want to go with it, but certain people can't coach certain places or certain kids can't. It's shown that it's been done.
Right.
And I think with that, I'm just going to put this out there. What has been done in Dallas, I would love for like a Fort Worth ISD team to have, a team that could have like a 2-3 round run in the playoffs, and just what SOC has done it's been amazing. And like I said, talking about movies, that's going to be a great movie as well right there. Maybe The Rock can play Coach Ward or something like that.
No doubt.
I think so. That'd be a funny movie right there.
Right.
I think it'd be great, and just along with that, what they have to deal with day to day. Not to say that each school doesn't have their own problems, but I think when you're at a school like that in the southern sector, you're not just football coach, you're dad, you're therapist. You may have to get this kid a meal or whatever the case may be. You may have to deal with a kid that has a job after leaving practice. So, hats off to them and coaches that are in, those type of places to where it's more than just coaching, and they don't treat these kids as if, when your eligibility is done, it's over with. I love the fact that they bring back the SOC kids. Like this past year in the playoffs, some people didn't catch it, but the Marsalis boys jersey, each number corresponded with a player that was on the state championship team, and the way they're doing it is great. So big shout out to SOC, and I think so many other teams that are in the southern sector or even just in the urban area, they can take a page out their book and see what they're doing.
Well, they're trying to get that blueprint. I had a chance to go around and cover some HISD games. I go back and forth between Dallas and Houston yearly. They want that blueprint. Don't think that they're not looking and trying to gauge that. Even in the Fort Worth ISD, you're at these games, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. These guys see the blueprint. They see it, but executing it and being steadfast about it. I think one thing that, unless you're privy to this and being around these guys, this is one of the best coaching staffs in America. Forget Texas. The SOC coaching staff is one of the best coaching staffs in America.
I got to tell this story real quick.
Go ahead.
Just to add to this.
Go ahead.
So, of course, we got the K104 Beast of the Week. Shout out to Trey Jackson. He's at Texas Tech right now. He was one of our Beasts of the Week. So, the following week, after, they fall to Port Neches Grove, salute to them. They won state championship and everything. We wanted SOC to get that three-peat. Hey, they're going to have to get they're going to have to get the third one another day. I believe it's going to happen.
It is.
But when I came to the school, the whole staff they were watching film of the game. Everybody doesn't do that.
Right.
So even just those things, like you say, it's a great staff. And I think with that, sometimes staffs need to learn how to even do things like that.
Right.
Versus, because there's been some schools know that when the season's over, hey, let's just get to these other sports. It's time to go.
Right.
The coaches may not see each other, but they're so ingrained, like you said. I just had to throw that tidbit out there.
Sure.
Like, it's different over there at SOC, and what Coach Todd is doing it's amazing.
No doubt. Shout out to Coach Spence, Coach Ward,
Shout out to them.
and Coach Ellis Wheatfield, and all those guys. And they do.
Shout out Coach Smoke. Yeah.
Coach Smoke, one of the best running back coaches in the game. You know what I mean? Listen, we're having a chance to be around these guys.
Yeah.
I was covering South Oak Clip when Coach Todd first got there. And they were in the playoffs religiously, but these guys have come in and they've stayed together. It's one thing that I think that people don't really realize is the continuity between that. They work like a well-oiled machine. I've been on the sidelines, I've seen them guys at practice. You don't see these guys really get, you can be, they don't get out of pocket. They don't let things bother them. They stay together and they coach together, and the kids respond to them.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what year it is. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
I was at the game when they played Alito on their first run, and you could see the change of the guard right then. Mm-hmm. And it always starts up front with SOC. In the running game, the physicality of that offensive line, they really took it to a physical Alito team, which they are physical year in and year out. But this is where I saw SOC flip that switch. Mm-hmm. To ingrain that into their program, and they live and die by that. And we were at the game up in Frisco in the playoffs against Melissa. You could see it start to happen. You know what I mean? And that when you see those type of things happen right in front of you, it's amazing. And Coach Jay, you've been on the sidelines and been at practices at SOC. Just speak on that just a little bit.
It's amazing to watch, and like you said, a very well-oiled machine, and the level of accountability. Just watching how they interact with the players in the way that we know works for that area is absolutely amazing. And the kids, like you said, completely buy in. Those guys don't flinch, and definitely great coaches. You can talk about athleticism all you want, but those guys know X's and O's. We've been all three of us have been in that building many a times, and every time I've gone, they're always in meetings talking football. So that tells you that they're serious about coaching. It's not about who's the best athlete, who's this. They're always talking about X's and O's. And if you're at their practice, the attention to detail is amazing. So they are truly, truly students of the game, and it shows. It shows because the level of winning, they've been knocking on the door for a while, and now that they knocked the door down, I don't see them going anywhere for many years.
And I definitely got to give a shout out to Coach Traylor too, because one of the best recruiting coordinators, in the country.
Yep.
Like
Absolutely.
they're getting these young men ready for college as well. Because we talk so much about, the football component, but they're getting these kids the offers, but they're getting them prepared for college. Because I know one of the big disappointing things to me is when, you see a kid, they sign, and they're back home before the season even starts. But it's like the kids that are coming out of SOC, they're ready to be student athletes, and they're ready to be students very much so forward. So I got to give kudos to them and everything as well for that too.
Absolutely, and they pride themselves on that. And this coaching staff is one of those coaching staffs where you can walk in there and I can listen to Coach Todd and Coach Ward and Coach Spence and those guys talk about ball for hours. Yeah. I'm that crazy of a football nut, but the knowledge that you gain, the way you're able to pick their brain, a lot of people don't have that access to them sometimes. You don't get a chance to see, a lot of, the world may see it when it happens on the field, but these guys are really, really football heads, and like Coach Jay, like you said, X's and O's, they can get on that whiteboard and go with the best. And I think that's things that people don't know behind the scenes, and when they do get the movie, you're going to show that. You know what I mean? It's coming. Coach Todd talks about it all the time.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Shout out to Coach Todd, man. He's been great and always very open when it comes to guys like us, getting to know those guys, being in the program, access to the players, and all those kind of things. But let's turn to DeSoto a little bit. Yeah. I think Coach Mathis is also a guy that needs his flowers as well.
Facts.
This program has been a program that's always been on the cusp. You can go all the way back to Coach Peterman in those days, 2016 when they won. But consistent winner, that's what you have. But this back-to-back run, man, shout out. And I know you're high on this guy, and a lot of us were high on him. DJ Bailey, the 2-year run.
DJ Bailey.
The 2-year run that DJ Bailey put up is something that goes down in Texas high school football history, in my opinion. But speak on DeSoto just a little bit.
Big shout out to Coach Claude Mathis. I love his style, the way he coaches his kid. He's really a leader of men, because there's not too many kids I haven't ran into, or young men now, that have played with Coach Mathis and they would still run through a wall for him.
Right.
And with that, I think, he left. They won a state championship. So coming back, it was, what are you going to do now?
Right.
So the fact that he was able to get a state championship, he was able to notch that off, but able to go through Duncanville and go undefeated to get that back-to-back state championship. And the way they did it in the state championship game, I know some people may not appreciated it, but hey, that's what dominance looks like.
Right.
That's what dominance looks like, the way you're able to dominate every phase of the game. So big shout out to them. And just the run DJ Bailey went on, amazing.
Right.
That's like, it's one of those historic runs, and being a champion. That's why when it comes to these recruiting stars and rankings and everything, they only matter when you think they matter.
Right.
Because like we talked about, when the production's right there, what else can you say about that? But yes, DJ Bailey, phenomenal run. Yes.
Right. Yeah, shout out to DJ Bailey. Shout out to Coach Claude Mathis, Coach Sweeney, and those guys
Shout
over
out
there.
Coach Sweeney. Yeah.
Man, listen, they've done a phenomenal job. A 2-year run that you don't see happen in the state of Texas very often. Coach Jay, you were in that program, still in that program.
Shout out Boogie.
Shout out to my guy Boogie Johnson. Speak on that DeSoto run just a little bit.
Absolutely phenomenal. It still hits my heart that we were a little early in coming and going, that we couldn't, we ran into that Duncanville buzzsaw fourth round. That'll never leave me, because we were a year too early.
Right.
But man, listen, when I tell you again, X's and O's, I'm privileged to be able to walk to DeSoto daily and walk in and out. Those are my guys. I love them to death, and can flat out coach. Again, you hear the thing about, oh, they got so many athletes, but you still got to coach them. It's a whole lot of 7-on-7 teams, a whole lot of other teams with athletes, but you still have to be able to manage those guys. You still have to be able to coach them. And for Claude to be able to come back, and not only win one, but win two is absolutely, absolutely amazing. Man, I don't even know, how just it's beautiful to be able to be in a situation where you can see and even help, put kids in a situation to be on, teams that win at that level, because it's not easy to do once, and definitely, very hard to do twice. But those guys, day in, day out, and shout out to Coach Sweeney, who I believe is, probably the best high school recruiter in the country, because that's, he takes that serious. And again, that's no disrespect to any other one. I just know Sweeney very well. We talk often. So, and I know what he pours into, making sure Sweeney will get in the car and drive kids to college camps to make sure that the coaches are treating them right, that they're getting seen. I don't know very many that would actually do that on the high school level. So just, big ups to my guy, and just that team, and then when they got a big kid named Byron Washington, that helped put him over the hump too, thanks to a certain person.
No, shout out to Big Baby, man. Listen, he had a phenomenal junior year. Probably one of the top recruited offensive linemen in the country. I did have a chance to see him at a very early age, and to see him to where he's blossomed. You could see it coming, but you have to put these things together and put in the work. He's put in the work as well.
Absolutely.
And that staff is putting in the work with him. I see what you want to say.
No, because you probably know where I'm going. It's like you got Big Washington, then right there, Booby Feaster. It's just the rich gets richer, and it is
oh
just.
Oh my God! That right there is the rich.
Listen, don't forget Singleton's coming back.
Exactly. Like there's
and Tiger.
Yes,
Texas A&M coming.
Big Tiger. Yes,
no doubt.
Yes, there's so many guys like the rich gets richer. Yes,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I
really
you go on and on about that man.
Yeah. I want to shout out a couple of people tuning in. Shout out to Torona Smith. That's Ollie Gordon's mom. Shout out to my guy Pat Botizzi, man. He said, "Run, tap in with the dub soon."
Man,
you know what I'm saying? Salute to the dub. Salute to everybody that's tapping in. Coach Jackie Bridges, shout out to him. Just want to shout out to a couple of the listeners before we get done. We got about.
Hey,
go ahead.
Real quick story, Mark, about Torona, and very few people know this. She's like a sister to me. We both went to TSU together. She's actually a when y'all want to know where the speed came from on Ollie, she's a track Hall of Famer right now at the University of Texas Southern. So very few people know that. She don't brag about herself, but I'm giving my sister her flowers right now. So I've been knowing Ollie before he came out the womb.
No doubt.
And that's where he got his speed from, mama.
No doubt, man. Shout out to my guy J-Mac from the Dub tapping in. Big Dub, salute. Yeah, we've been working behind the scenes, and we got to get Miss Smith on the show. It's been a long time coming. Shout out to my guy Ollie Gordon, man. Phenomenal run at Euless Trinity. And listen, he's probably the leading candidate for in my opinion, Heisman Trophy coming in for the next year. So, I'm really looking for big things to come from Ollie this year coming up in 2024. But another big thing that you're heavily involved in, Ron, is and I'd go out of my way and show this Coach Jay is trying to get coverage to other schools that really don't get that media coverage that these bigger games get. It's always going to be in Aledo. It's always going to be the schools in Frisco. Right. You can go out to East Texas, to Carthage, the Longviews, in Houston, the Cadies, the North Shores, the Tascasitas, San Antonio, Cibolo, Steele, Austin. But I said the inner city schools, the ISD schools, just don't get enough coverage, and that's the way these athletes don't get seen or get the exposure that they need. That's one thing that you've hung your hat on here the last few years, and we kind of rub elbows at these games.
Right.
Talk about how important that is for those guys' exposure, the coaches, players, and the schools as well.
I think really what it is, and I'm glad you asked me that. I think some coaching staffs, they understand the marketing, the branding of it all, while some coaches, whether they don't want to evolve or they just don't understand it as well.
Right.
Because there's plenty of places that I have no problem getting into, but then there are some places that want no media at all.
Right.
And then it kind of puts into an awkward situation to where, hey, come to our game, come out and do this, but it's like, you know, your coach doesn't want this, that, or whatever, and then the parents reach out.
Right.
So then which I have no problem with, you know, everybody doesn't know Ron Murray, and believe it or not, everybody doesn't know K104. Like, K104 Friday Night Lights was going on way before me.
Right.
And there are people it's ingrained in who they are and growing up in the DFW. It's a staple, but the coaches may not know.
Right.
But as things may have evolved, sometimes people don't understand. I think it's sometimes when people may not understand the culture of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So I think it is important to get out to those places and sometimes even helping those coaching staffs to understand, because I totally get it. When you're not in the know, you do have to worry about some media.
Right.
Like, you do have to worry about those guys that come to games just to record fights on the sidelines so they can go viral.
Right.
And if you don't know who a Mark Henry is, who a Ron Murray is, or these other outlets that aren't necessarily, you know, the television stations or whatever,
right,
you may be missing out on opportunity versus just painting a broad brush with everybody. But I do feel that it's important because at the end of the day, no one wants to be late on a kid,
right,
especially when you could have been there to cover them.
Right.
But, you know, I think it's important. I love going out to these places. And to me, it's like these kids enjoy it, because we love sports, but this is also part of their life. And really just coming out, them getting the profiles that you make for them, the stories on them, that probably makes their whole high school career. And then wherever they go after that, hey, Mark Henry came and covered me.
Right.
Ron Murray came and covered me. Coach Jay, he was out there.
Right.
All these other platforms. Then, of course, how, like, not taking it so much even deeper, but how that helps them operate in school.
Right.
You know what I mean? To where, man, I got shouted out on the radio.
Right.
So now other people have heard you shout out on the radio. So now you may stand a little taller in school. You may want to do better in class,
right,
and things of that nature. And I think it all plays a role, but it's everybody, you know, being in communication and talking and things at that level. But I love going to different places. Like, there's no place that I won't go, whether it be Dallas ISD, Frisco ISD. Not too many places that I haven't checked off, you know, my bucket list at this point in time.
Right.
But I think it's important, just as we get those schools that we see are going to play all the time, it's important to go to the Adamson versus Sunsets.
Yeah.
And I'm putting that out there. I love going to that game because it's a certain demographic that's out there. It's going to be a great rivalry game, and there's so many other games like that.
Right.
Because it's just like covering anything that's not sports. You try to find the story, you find the appeal, and those people are going to appreciate that because you're a part of them telling their story and getting their voice out.
Absolutely. That's why, you know, I live in the Fort Worth area, and you know, my kids go to Fort Worth ISD schools. It's very important that you see diamonds in the rough all the time.
All the time.
But
yeah.
you know, Southwest versus ODY versus Dunbar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Carter Riverside versus Diamond
Right.
Hill. All of those kids look forward to that. You know what
Yes.
I mean? And a lot of times they don't get seen because it's just not the big game of the week on everybody's radar.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think that's an important piece that a lot of times people look over. You know what I mean? And, you know, Coach Jay, you've been on the same path with this type of thing. Talk about that just a little bit.
No, it's hugely important, man, to give, you know, a lot of kids. And the thing is, we want to expose the unexposed. So in order to do that, you have to be willing to go places where there is no exposure or very little, so we can shed some light. You know, I just today in the hotel met a kid, 8th grader, 6'6", 200 pounds, about to start playing football for the first time. So I'm like, dude, I got to follow you.
No
I want to see
doubt.
how this story is going to turn out, you know.
Right.
So whenever we can assist, you know, in giving kids a platform to be seen, that's the beauty of what we do and why we do it, to truly help elevate and put eyes on kids that may not get those eyes anywhere else.
Well, it's an important piece, and I think it's a lot, you know, people miss that, you know what I mean? And, you know, I think that we definitely set the bar when that comes to that, and it's one reason I wanted to have Ron on the show today to talk about those things. But Ron, we got a couple of minutes left. Shout out a couple of things that you got coming up. I know, shout out to Coach Brooks. He tapped in with me this morning. They got a big 7-on-7 event coming up next week. Lots of teams from around the country on the 7-on-7 circuit will be coming to Dallas next week. We got a couple minutes left. Shout out to you again. Thank you for coming in, man, your busy schedule. Shout out to everybody at K104 and shout out to you. But a couple of big things you got coming up before we get out of here.
First off, I definitely want to say shout out to you. I appreciate you. You know what you mean to me. You know what I mean? I'm glad that everything that you're putting together is coming to fruition. Coach Jay, the conversation that we done had, I appreciate you so much, and I love the relationship you and your son have, and just like how you've been there and how you've seen him develop, not just for him and with your family. So I definitely appreciate y'all, bringing me on. So with that, next week, True Buzz presents the show, the March Madness Tour, the 23rd and the 24th, and of course, they're bringing back the smoke bracket. Tonight, I'm going to be on my Instagram Live, 7 p.m., Call them out. Who do you want to play? True Buzz versus Team Grind. That's locked in. Also, shout out to Coach King and TDG Elite. They're going to be taking on True Buzz. So that's what's going down next weekend. And also, my school supply giveaway is going to be coming up in the fall. So I'm definitely getting ready for that. Also, just covering the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavs right now, they're kind of in that play-in situation. They got to figure it out because I don't like the Mavs in the play-in situation. They need to get in 1 through 6 right now. And, of course, Cowboys free agency. The Cowboys, they don't deal with the first wave of anything. So, you need to calm down a little bit with that, Cowboys Nation. But got a lot going on. You can follow me at Ron Murray Jr. I appreciate both of y'all for having me on today.
Man, listen, man, tap in with us. Follow the On Your Mark Show YouTube channel as well. Man, big shout out to my guy, Mr. High School Holler himself, Ron Murray in the building today. The biggest, man. That's my guy. We'll be back next week. Shout out to everybody that tapped in today. Man and Mike's going to take us out. We out.
Hey, this Manna Mike. I'm not sure what you own, but this here is on the mark. Like a spiral from a 5-star recruit, we throwing darts, really focused. WD-40 couldn't stop the way we grinded. In the trenches, putting that work in, I relate to all my linemen. This is for the men, the boys do not belong here. Tiptoeing to the top, we doing cone drills. The hottest show in the world, you don't even gotta search. Steady putting in work, you see the sweat up on my shirt. They wasn't aware of us at first, we wasn't on their radar. Now every play that we make, they gon' say similar to a razor blade, we gon' stay sharp. The news ain't official if it's not on the mark.